Everyone, it's late July in Warwick, New York, and welcome to episode 9 of season 4 for the Warwick Zoom garden plot. Do we have any introductions to do today?
No, we all know each other.
Okay, so let's just plow ahead. We're going to have a couple garden updates, one from the Greenwood Lake Common Ground Garden. Chad will do that, and then Mark will do, oops, I'm sorry, I didn't update this. This is actually Mark who will be talking about his community garden plot. We've got a few announcements today and a couple questions and answers. With no further ado, it's off to you, Chad.
All righty. Hopefully I don't have any fingers in front of my pictures this time, but I can't promise. So we have little sunflowers growing, got a little picture in the front. I don't know how tall they're going to get, but hopefully, I mean, they look like they may be just smaller sunflowers, but still very beautiful. I try to put them in the corners of the garden. Yeah, well, Sarah, yeah, this is a very unusual season between, I would say this was our first normal weekend, whatever you call normal, like, just a regular sunny summer weekend. It was crazy because every other weekend is some type of monsoon or
I know.
yeah, it's been wild.
Yeah, it's been
Um,
challenging.
so yeah, our squash is coming out pretty good. Not as good as last year was like insane with squash, but you see we do have a few squash growing. That's the picture to the left. And a lot of calendula came up, volunteers from last year, so many calendula. And I probably pulled out 50, but I gave away 20, but they're still, I mean, they're very pretty and they're medicinal and edible. And so it's not a horrible thing, but they are taking over a lot. And we do a lot of interplanting of stuff. And then on the other side, we have kale, broccoli and celery. And you see, we usually cover it with a cloth and I move that. And then, of course we have tomato volunteers coming up everywhere. That's really took over. I was trying to be somewhat organized this year, and I only had 3 tomato beds, but I didn't have the tomatoes just popped up everywhere, and I never have the heart to. We gave away maybe 100, and I just can't kill them. So now we have like 8 beds of tomatoes. So that's like definitely the majority of the garden is tomatoes everywhere, and I definitely need more bamboo and stuff to support them. Like Sarah mentioned earlier, like I definitely need some more. We have a lot of people. It's funny, we have people that love to weed in our garden, but as far as trellising and stuff, I'm having a hard time finding people. As you see, we have a really tall trellis. I got it from the hardware store, way too tall. I was barely able to put this up with a ladder. But I am curious to see. I tied these tomatoes up to see how high they will actually get, because that's like, as you see, like, 8, it's like 10 over 10 feet up that pole. So that could be interesting. I have a lot of arugula. We'll let that go to seed, but that's a whole big bed of tomato. Then you see the other bed, we have peppers all interspersed, starting to turn, get ready to pick. Sarah was my teacher to stay calm and patient and not pick them too early, because you always get so excited that you want to wait for them to turn, red or fully develop. So we're getting a few that are almost ready. And you go to the next picture. I know my pictures don't get a grasp of anything. Well, then you see along this one side, we have bee balm, false indigo. Like we really try to plant a lot of perennials along that wall. And all the way at the end, I don't know if I have a closer picture, is fennel, really tall. That fennel really,
Nice.
yeah, is like beautiful and giant. And there's garlic. We're still pulling a lot of garlic came up. We're probably ready to finish pulling that. And then, a lot of these beds are, tomato interspersed, then we have peppers, squash is in the middle of that. And the other side, oh yeah, that's a different view of it. And then we try to put some more perennial. We put borage and cardoon and Turkish rocket. And
What's Turkish rocket?
I know it's not the greatest. I mean, I got that from Barbara at the garden center. I mean, it grows quite well and it actually flowers very nicely. And it's kind of a bitter thing, but it's a green. I don't have a close up. I should have taken a close up picture of it, but it is perennial. I'm just trying to grow a lot more perennials
Right.
and utilize them. Right, but I taken a bite of it, it raw and a little bit rough. But when you throw
Okay.
it, stir fry it, you can handle it. And borage is very beautiful and edible, and also best you cook it up a little bit. And the flowers are edible. Nasturtiums, which are my favorite, are growing, but not that fantastically to be to harvest that much. But yeah, there's a ton of weeding. That's just a nonstop uh, thing, and doing the hose. It's hard. Then plus I got to turn the compost. So we're definitely looking to get. Our model again was to be open garden for free to all. We have open hours on Saturday morning and Wednesday evening. Okay. Well, I'll try. I don't know if I have one. Um, um, but and people are coming, but it is hard to organize to say, all right, we're all going to do this today, and because sometimes I'm greeting people, I'm giving them a tour, and Gillian has been amazing, building stuff. The hoop house, we're doing a keyhole bed. Oh, I probably should send pictures of that. I don't know if I did send a picture of that. And actually, I should have taken pictures of that. We put posters around the garden, like little lawn posters, like lawn signs, not posters, signs to explain what things are, and then you can press the QR code, and we're gonna have a little blog that takes you there. So that's very exciting. I don't know. Did I take any pictures of that? Probably not, right?
I think that's your last one. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's it. But yeah, the garden's coming along very nicely, miraculously. It definitely is little. I felt was like really on top of me this year, and I never felt like I caught up because again, like once the tomatoes came nonstop, then I felt like my whole vision is gone, and then I was just like scrambling just to kind of go with the flow. And but it overall looks beautiful, especially this Saturday. I don't know if I gave you guys an event, but feel free to come down to the garden, 13 Poplar Street. We'll be digging up bee balm, a lot of perennials because we have so much of it. This is not the ideal time of year, but like literally in the front of the garden, the bee balm is like literally exploding. So if you are around, you could take home stuff with you for free. So Sonia Mason will be there, who's really an expert at that, and she'll explain. So
Could use some bee balm. I'll come down.
yes, this Saturday from 10 to 12.
Great.
I know we have your sweet potatoes growing beautifully as always. Thank you.
Yeah, they're doing, yes, that's the sweet potatoes are
You're
doing
always an
well.
honorary member. All right, thank you. And Mark.
Oh, I just have one question, Chad. How are you doing with the water table? Because I know you said that your water table's high.
Yeah, it's been good. Those rains, it'll definitely build up a little bit on the back and side, but otherwise, hopefully we're really helping to, all the stuff we're growing is hopefully, soaking up more and more water. Because yeah, it is amazing. I guess I probably should have even taken more pictures of, before we first got there. There would be, ponds of water, everywhere. It's like a swamp. So I have to say, I don't know if it's all this, right. I guess we grew a ton of stuff on it. So it definitely soaked up a lot of water, which is very encouraging. But thanks for asking.
Okay, I guess I'll get started. I'm going to go over the plots. This is basically, I showed this a few weeks ago. I'm up, my name is Mark Palczewski. I'm up in the town of Montgomery Community Garden. We garden a little bit differently. We don't do communal gardening. We do our own separate plots, and you're basically free to grow whatever you want as long as it's not a tree or a large shrub. You can grow perennials, annuals, flowers, herbs, vegetables, mix whatever you want. So this plot we're looking at here, and the edge of it goes to the red stake that you can see on the right side picture. This is a 20 by 20. We have mostly 20 by 20. I have a few 20 by 30. So this plot is my wife's and my next door neighbors, and there's a group, four of us that kind of work together in our own little communal center of the community garden. So the four of us share the three plots that we hold together, and we we pick whatever we want out of each other's plots. That's the other thing too. You can't really pick anything out of anyone else's plot, even if it's rotting. It's a shame because even if the person doesn't come back and it's rotting, you can't touch their plot. It's their plot is their plot, and it's pretty set in stone on that. So anyway, this is the tomato.
I would go crazy. I would go crazy
Yeah.
watching
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
everything die. I would be like, just
Yeah.
let me grab that tomato or something.
We had people where like they planted tomatoes, never came back. There was hundreds of plums, but you really can't, the rules are the rules, and it gets. I think it's what are you gonna do? But anyway, so this is the tomato patch that my wife Debbie and my neighbor Eileen work and maintain, and we share. And there's 16 tomato varieties. These were the ones I got from Burpee that were struggling. They're doing better, but I still think I'm going to avoid Burpee because I just don't need the aggravation and the agita of like having to nurse these plants to health and worry if they're going to make it, because I get very concerned about my plants and I don't want to, I'd rather start. And my feeling is, you start off with good stock makes good plants. So if you start off with weak plants, it's not like a perennial, it's not like a favorite plant. It's really a worker. So, I don't have any emotional ties to these plants. I do to some plants, but not to these. These are just workers. If they don't make it, you pull them out and start with another plant. So I just don't want to deal with that again. So I think I'm going to get Bonnie's or go to a local nursery and get them. But there's 16 different varieties, and you can see on the picture on the left, they're starting to green up. Nothing yet, maybe just a couple here and there, a few cherries. This is another picture of it. We border it with dill on one side and marigold on the other. The dill we use to attract the parasitic wasps for the tomato hornworm, and the marigolds we use, and we use actually both as a border because the other plots have a lot of bindweed, so we kind of, it slows the bindweed down when it hits the marigold or the dill, and it's easier to handle and weed. So we try to keep this plot weed free, and that's my permaculture. This is the permaculture plot. So we don't turn the soil over. We just put more mulch down every year. Like in the fall, we'll come there with 2 bales of mulch. We'll build it up to maybe 6 inches. It'll sink over the winter, and we just it rots, and we just keep planting in there. And we also don't not circulate. What is it?
Rotate.
We don't rotate. Yeah, sorry, I couldn't think of the word. We don't rotate. So far so good. I used to rotate. It was too much of a pain to try to figure out what to plant where and everything. We don't rotate, and this is our 3rd season, and it doesn't seem to be any harm. If we need to, we'll give it a shot of organic fertilizer, and take it from there. So that's it for that plot. I think you can see the back picture too. These are all the same plot. So this is the plot that I share with a friend of mine, Lynn Thompson, and she couldn't get in this year because we have a waiting list. Everyone wants to garden, and it's getting really popular. So I asked her if she wanted to join. She could come share with me, and we share this plot together. This is like, and again, Debbie and Eileen, we all picked from the plots, but this is our main vegetable plot. We have onions, beans, squash, and potatoes in here, and basil. So you can see in the left-hand picture, that row is a row of onions. There's dill in the middle. I have red here, and I have yellow on the other side. The picture here is from another angle. That's we have 2 small bean plots, 4x4, that produce a ton of beans. And in the middle, if you go look at the lower right, there's a little basil area there where we have some columnar basil. And the top right is where we have our yellow onions. So they're starting to fade out now. They're starting to topple over. And we've pulled a couple, and they've actually split because they like water, but it's way too much water. So they've actually split, and we've had, they really can't be used for storage, because they'll just rot. So what I do with these is we wait till they topple over, but and then we pull them out when they topple over. A couple days later, if it's dry enough, we'll put them on some paper, cardboard, or some burlap, let them dry out in the sun. And then when the tops shrivel to nothing, like they literally have to be dehydrated to nothing, then we can take them and we can put them in storage bags. And they've lasted till March. So they last till, if you're lucky, that you can get them till like February, March, but you'll at least get them till like November, December, if you still have them. And the reds seem to store better than the yellows that I'm finding. So that's it for that plot. And then this one is, oh no, I'm sorry, I'm still on this plot. So this is where our squash is. If you look at the left, we put 4 plants of zucchini and 4 of the patty pan or the scallop squash. And the zucchini, we had this humongous crop of like at least 2 dozen zucchini, a ton of zucchini, and that's it. Nothing else after that. It just stopped producing, which was very disappointing. Plants look fine; they're doing healthy. I'm starting to see a couple young ones coming up, so maybe we'll get another flush. And the patty pans are starting to take over. And the first time I've ever grown them, they're okay, but they're not producing like I expected them to. But they're doing okay. They're producing okay. And then we're also finding that now it's not so bad, but up until about last week with the wet weather, some of the patty pans were just getting a fungal disease and dropping off because it was so wet, and you couldn't dry it out. So that's the one on the right, that row there. I don't have those marigolds, are not part of mine. The picture in the middle shows the squash and the potatoes, and the picture on the right shows the row of potatoes. So that's about a 20-foot row of potatoes. We're actually pulling some out now, the ones that are popping out of the surface, like blue ones and stuff. So almost like new potatoes. They're small, but you can see the plants are starting to fade out and die. So I'd say another week or two, when they really just start to die and shrivel up, we're gonna get in there with some pitchforks and some burlap bags and pull those things up. And I'm expecting. I'll be disappointed if we don't get a lot, because I put I put a lot of potatoes down there, and the plants looked really healthy for up until now where they're dying. So I'm expecting a big crop of them, and it'll be good. We have 4 families to share it with, so it'll be nice. So that's it for that middle plot. That's really the workhorse plot. And then the last plot is my plot. But again, we all share. So just because it's my plot doesn't mean we all share. This is the one where it's like a mishmash of everything. So I have some raised beds. You can see on the left-hand side, I just chopped down the borage, and I mixed in some comfrey, which is right behind it. And I'm going to let that rot for 2 weeks, turn it in, and then I'm going to put in a second crop of beans, because the beans are going really well. Everyone loves the beans, and I'm turning more of a vegetable person, and I can eat like a mound of beans at a sitting now, and I never used to eat them. So, so we need a lot of beans. And then that other raised bed on the right is just daikon radish. And I don't know what I'm going to do with that. I literally put cover crops in there the last 3 years. The soil must be fantastic, and I don't know what I want to do with it. So I just keep putting cover crops in there. Maybe one day I'll figure out what to do with it. Behind it's my huge raised bed, and I got
I
the
think
backup.
Mark, I think
Yep.
that's pronounced daikon, and they make great
Oh,
pickles.
daikon. Is it? Did I say daikon? Daikon.
You did,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and they make great pickles.
You know what? I get so many, and maybe I'll try that, or maybe I'll throw it in. I make a soup. I've been eating like a root-based soup with cabbage and turnips and kohlrabi. Maybe I can throw a couple in there and see how they taste.
When I
But
lived in Nepal, you'd get one of those, and you'd put both the green and the tuber, like in one stew with some noodles or something.
oh, that's a good idea. You could use the top as a green inside the soup. That's a
Yeah.
great idea. I mean, there's a ton of them there, and they get pretty big. I mean, they get humongous actually. So, but thanks, Michael. That's a good idea. I think I'll use that the tops as well. In the forefront with the bottle, I bought is a little prostate rosemary, and I bought these little clay like pegs that you stick in, and you put the bottle on top. And I got them from Amazon, and unfortunately, like 3 of them already broke, so they're kind of cheap. But when they work pretty good. It saves the plant from me having to run out there and water the containers. Just on the picture. So if you look on the left-hand side picture to the very right of that, you can see my peppers. They're pathetic. I've never seen my peppers so bad. I don't know. The ones from Burpee were bad. The ones I bought from Bonnie aren't doing much better. It's been a bad year for me for peppers. And I think it had to do with the rain. Maybe with this dry weather, they can perk up and make a comeback. But they're very, very disappointing this year. So that's and last year they weren't very good. The year before I had a bumper crop. I couldn't give them. I had bags of them, but that's the way it goes, I guess. And let's see. If I have any more slides, I can just show. Or that's it? Okay, so this is those are the peppers. Those are the ones those are coming back a little bit, but the other ones are pretty sad. Behind it on all 4 corners or 3 corners, I have mints that are doing well. I have the bottles in there. You can see On the left, the right-hand side, that's my little herb garden. I got lemon thyme, rosemary, lavender, and in the other plot I have some mostly dianthus, a little bit of oregano, which isn't doing very well, and some pineapple mint. In the forefront here, on the lower right, I have marigolds as a companion plant, and then you can see the pepper. And in the forefront of the left-hand picture, I have some strawberries that were like volunteer that people grow a lot of strawberries, and some seeds must have landed in mine, and I actually got some out of it. I might take them and put them in the big container. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with them as of now. So they're just kind of in a holding position, and they're throwing out a ton of runners. So if anyone wants a rosemary plant, let me know. I'll stick the runner in a pot. I'll pot it up for you, and I can. I'm constantly cutting the runners off, so they don't get on the pathway. And in the very background behind the lavender, you can see I had crimson clover, which I just cut back. I'm going to let that rot a couple weeks, turn it over, and maybe put another cover crop, or maybe put in some beans in there if it's not too late, or maybe some turnips as a cover crop. I'll use the purple top turnips as a cover crop, and they're good too, because if you need a turnip or two, which I've been eating in my soups, I can just grab a couple of them, and then whatever I don't eat, I can just turn over in the soil to improve the soil. And that's probably it, I think, right, Michael? I think I'm done.
You got one more here.
Oh, one more. Okay, so what's this? Oh, okay, yeah, okay. So, Christy, I think you asked what was in the raised bed. That's what's in the
Yeah.
raised bed on the hand side. So Lynn Thompson donated a cucumber. We stuck it in there. We got some peppers in some pots that we were going to use as backup, but they're failing. And then we have some leftover tomatoes that we used as backup because they weren't going to do. They were struggling. So I figured, let me just get a couple extra tomatoes. They ended up the ones ended up pulling through, so we just kept the tomatoes there. So they're kind of backup tomatoes. In the forefront, I have a path, and it's got like white clover, and it get up against the edges of the raised beds. I don't know if you can see, but there's about 15 flat leaf parsley plants, because everyone in our group loves parsley. So I wanted to grow enough so that people could just go in there and just grab a handful whenever they wanted, not have to worry about not having enough. The middle picture, real quick, is 2 eggplants and the pepper. And again, that pepper seems like it's struggling. And the eggplants are flowering. I've never had luck with eggplants. Maybe this year I will. And on the right-hand side is a better picture of that bed with the marigolds, the companion plants. And I do direct sowing on them. So, and that was spotty too, because a lot of the seeds got washed away, didn't really grow very well. So, and I've noticed I did buckwheat cover crops and with the direct seed, and as I was walking away, all the birds came and ate the seed. They literally ate it before I left the garden. So it's basically bird food, I guess, instead of seed. So I don't know what to do about that. I scrape it in the soil, and they seem to peck through and get to it. Same with the chipmunks. They come in there and they eat the seed. So it's a little bit of a struggle sometimes with the direct seed, because even if you scratch the soil, put it in, everything, we get a lot of chipmunks and birds that seem to peck through the soil and eat it. So I double or triple the rate, and even that sometimes comes up spotty. Anyway, I think that's it.
How about
Beautiful.
hardware fabric to keep critters off?
I could, I guess. Yeah, I mean, that's a really good idea. And
At least till they get a little bit sprouted.
yeah. No, once they get started, they really want the seed. That's a good idea, actually, Michael. I could put like a fabric on top of it till they sprout a couple days, and then pull it off. Yeah, I never thought of it like that, but I could. Yeah, that's a good idea. That's not a bad idea.
Very nice, Mark. Very nice.
Yeah, it's beautiful garden, Mark. I want to go walk through it. It looks beautiful.
Yeah, anytime you want, let me know. And
Mhm.
because we have combination locks, and so but if you want to visit, anyone wants to come up and visit, just let me
Well,
know.
It's very inviting. It's very inviting, the space. You did a good job.
Thank you.
Mhm.
So
We're
folks,
shimmying?
this brings us to the shimmy in place. So
Okay.
we'll all be back in a minute.
Mhm.
Okay, thanks.
What are you making? Oh, I think you're muted. You're muted. I can't hear you.
I'm making skirts for some dolls that I'm making.
Oh, nice. So are you,
It's
I'm trying to see what you have in your hand. What are you using?
Tulle. Do you know what tulle is? Tulle.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's you can. It's very fine. And what I do is I put it together first so that it'll hold together when I sew it.
Okay,
Make
smart.
little two skirts.
Yeah, I see what you got now. It was the tool that you had, the tool for the tool that you have in your hand that I was
It's a
confused
tagging
about.
gun, merchandise tagging gun that you use to put
Yeah, put tags on.
Yeah, it's a tag gun. And I
Great.
just use it to actually tack down the tool together so that you get a little thing like this, and then I can
Yes.
put a hem on the top and make a skirt.
That's pretty clever. I used to work for, I had a doll hospital at one time, so I made a lot of custom doll clothes for antique dolls. And then I worked for a plush toy designer.
Oh.
And so we made prototypes for like Fisher Price and stuff. So I did a lot. I never used that tagging thing, but I've done a whole lot of pinning and basting and everything else in my day.
It's
Did that
my
for
way
11
of
years.
basting everything together since
Yeah.
it doesn't. Yeah, 'Cause I
Great.
only need to do 3 inches at a time. So
Very good. Yeah, I've got a permanent lump on my thumb. I don't think it's arthritis or anything like that, but I think it's from, I had scissors and I was cutting every day, like 8 hours a day, that or tracing patterns. And so I think I just wore it out.
yeah,
I did a lot of sewing years ago also.
Yeah.
I grew up, my mother taught me to sew. We made all of our clothes when I was young.
Wow.
And then because I knew how to sew, in college, I worked in the costume shop. Actually, I worked in the costume shop more than I went to class. And then and then for several years, I worked at New Jersey Shakes, the Renaissance Festival.
Oh, no
Doing-
kidding.
Yeah,
Right.
sewing costumes. But
Wow.
I haven't sewn for a while, but I found now like my fingers as I've gotten older, I have to get a different kind of thimble because I used to just push needles with my thumb and everything and put
Yeah.
band-aids on them and it's too painful now.
But you
It
said you were
is.
in the Renaissance Festival?
Not in it, but for a
Oh.
number of years when I first moved to Warwick, we were talking about sewing and I have a
Okay.
long history of knowing how to sew. So I worked in the making costumes there for quite a while.
That's neat.
No, because Gillian is very involved with the Renaissance.
And it was fun then. Like at that time, they were doing like the full Shakespearean play, and Barbara and I forget her husband's name owned it. So we really built some wonderful costumes. Now and then it sort of just got more. I don't know what they
Robert
did.
Allen, right? That
Huh?
was back Alan Greenfield.
It was
Barbara-
back in
Barbara,
the
was
80s.
Alan her partner's name?
Yeah, I think so.
That might be it.
Barbara and Alan Greenfield. They were
Yeah.
the ones who started it. Yeah.
Yeah. Back in I think that would have been the 90s. I did that.
So now that we've caught up on all of our sewing issues,
We can
You
have a
didn't
separate
tell
going
us,
of what-
you didn't share, Michael.
we have just a few quick announcements. The August 16th, that's a Wednesday evening at Town Park, 6 p.m., Sustainable Warwick's annual picnic. It's a no waste event. Everyone is welcome to attend. The community garden is actually part of Sustainable Warwick. Most of the garden members have never attended a Sustainable Warwick monthly meeting. They don't even know they're members of Sustainable Warwick, but they're all invited to the picnic. So Tara, I hope you'll get on it and get your gardeners out to join us.
I'll let them know.
It's kind of like a Zoom where you get all you can drink and all you can eat. But with Zoom, of course, you're providing your own food and meal, and here you sort of bring a dish to share, and then.
Right.
We still want compost collectors. The compost collection, the food waste program going on at the farmers market is still going strong. Email garden@sustainablewarwick.org if you're interested in that. Chad, you're still doing crop swaps, right? How's that going?
It's coming. I'm there on Wednesdays. Hopefully, as more people produce, we'll always be there. We're willing to swap. And again, feel free this Saturday to come by and get some bee balm and whatever else is available.
And
Last
we've got,
Saturday, a lady and her daughter came and brought lettuce and got some things, so that we had a little
Oh,
action
okay.
Saturday too.
There you go.
and just a reminder to everyone, the 2nd and 4th Mondays of August are the August 14th and 28th, and we look forward to seeing everyone there. We had a couple questions.
Oh, did you want to show a picture of the Turkish? I think
That's
I-
coming up later, Chad.
okay.
It's been added.
Sorry.
It's still in the question section. It's just a new
Ava,
addition.
what are you doing?
So how organized is your garden journal at this point in the season? How are your record keeping going?
Very bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, it starts off great and then it drops off by May or June.
I think Sarah, you're pretty good, right? Usually.
Usually, this year was pretty much no.
Oh, if you didn't do it, then forget it, because I know you're good. Yeah, I was horrible. I started, and then once the tomatoes came, I just literally threw out my maps and all that stuff. It's no point.
Please don't help.
Does anyone have a suggestion for journaling habits for their gardens? A sort of a do as I say, not as I do kind of advice on this topic?
I would say one thing. I was looking for a picture to use at the top of the email, that would represent the question of the week. And I found so many beautiful garden journals that people that just draw what the plant looks like or what the bug looks like or whatever, and on the page with everything else. So if you just Google garden journal, and it's so inspiring because it sort of comes to life when you see it. You don't have to be a great artist to doodle a leaf, and I just found it inspiring. I wanted to journal for sure next year.
I mean, Mark, you seem fairly your rows seem pretty organized as far as
What I do is I take a lot of pictures, maybe as a substitute, because what happens with me is I'll do a lot of direct sowing, like I said, and I do and every year when you direct sow, it doesn't come up right away. It doesn't come up even, it fills in. And I always panic because it's oh my God, I forgot how it looked last year. Oh my God, I did it wrong this year. I screwed something up. I put too many seeds. I put too few seeds. Or last year at this time it was better, it was worse. And it always ends up looking, pretty good or okay, whatever, or comes out good, whatever. But I always panic in the process because I always forget what, because when you direct sow in the beginning, it looks bad. It's just coming up all mishmashy and then it eventually fills in. And same with the plants, this year, oh my God, the tomatoes aren't going to do. And they always end up doing okay, but I just panic because I forget what shape they were in the year before. The peppers aren't doing anything. The peppers, I always have one crop that just totally fails or doesn't do well. And I guess this year is the peppers. But yeah, so I pictures that way I can refer back to my pictures and go, oh yeah, on June, this is what the tomato patch looked like. It looks about the same. That's the only thing I can think of because I go out there with all the best intent and I write every single thing down. And then I just you start getting back to the car after 6 hours in the garden and you're like, I can't, I don't want to write. I just want to go home and take a shower and go to bed.
Yeah.
And
that's what's great about the camera. I have to say that is a nice thing. The other thing, in my search for garden journal pictures, there were great ideas. And so you got these tags and they would just staple them into the book and then write whatever notes. And this, I don't know if you've ever done that. I never thought to do that. I keep them, but they're always sort of in a pile,
Right.
That's what I put them in I did that for the last couple of years. I put them in a little cardboard box, and they're still in the trunk of my car.
I made some notes about I at the farmer's market, I got something for the Cornell Cooperative Extension, and I'll put it in, but on, oh shoot, what is it? It's September 23rd at 10 a.m. The Cornell Cooperative Extension is going to have a little workshop on nature journaling. So that might be something people want to consider joining.
Well, I always find it's like, reading an incredible self-help book. And like Christy says, you go online, you see these incredible, and so, oh, it's such a great idea. And then I just don't do it. Like, it makes all the sense in the world. It's fantastic. It's brilliant. It'll make your life so much easier. And then you just like, nah.
You know,
There's no reason not to do it. I just don't do it.
I use that Mother Earth News Garden Planner computer program. So, and I have history on there because you duplicate the plots every year. And in the spring I start and I put in when I plant things. And then now that you've said this, I'll probably go back when things start to produce. I write little notes about when they produce, but I also have my pictures. But I print off the plots, and then in the spring when I'm planting, I walk around the garden with my little maps that I scribble like what I planted where. So eventually, it's sometime during the winter, I get it laid out so I pretty much know where things were, and I'm making a good map of this new project, my perennial pollinator bed. And I map the orchard also. So I do this, but it's not terribly organized. Memos, little scribbles, pictures, but it gets there.
I do that in the wintertime. Like before I order my plants or seeds, I'll go out to the plots in the middle of the winter and like say, okay, even put it out like, okay, plant here, plant here, plant here. And I'll lay everything out. I'll do it multiple times because like I'll lay it out and then I'll change my mind multiple times. Probably go out there half a dozen times or maybe even more until I finally finalize a plan. So I do that. I organize in the beginning. It's just in the middle of the season. I just lose interest or lose time. But like in February, you'll like people like, what are you going to the garden for? It's February. It's like, because I want to know, like, I got it in my mind where I'm going to put this and this, and then I go out there. No, I don't want to. So I all do in my head. I just do it in my head, and because I've been doing it for a long time, and I always like measure out like where everything's going to go, so I know what to order, and hopefully hit that mark with the seeds and the plants and everything. So there is organization. It's just I do it in the winter and in the early spring before the season starts. It's just too hard during the season. There's too much going on, and it's just too much. So maybe
Thank you for saying that. Thank you for saying that. I think we have a lot of people who watch our videos online, and a lot of people are saying, thank you. We appreciate this message. This is how we feel about it too. And we're not morally deficient people. We just are like everyone else. We just can't keep up with our journaling in the middle of the garden season. Thank you.
You just run out of steam. I just, but it always works out. It always works out in the end.
Unless you're Bill Makovsky, who seems to just have like a real.
Well, he's different. Yeah.
He's Bill.
Yeah, he's like very meticulous, very organized.
I bet Dorothy does the same thing.
Oh, her garden is beautiful.
Yeah, she seems very
numbered beds.
Yeah, but I think she's like traveling from. I don't know how that's going to work, but maybe she has someone watching her stuff.
Yeah,
well,
that's
folks,
organized.
Let's move on to the next question, and that was, what are the longs and shorts of mulching with grass clippings?
I usually throw I usually someone brings grass clippings, and I usually put them into my compost, and then mix them in that way. But I don't, depending how much I get, and I'll put some in the beds. But if I don't have that much, I'll put it into my compost pile directly.
I just leave them on the yard, but I live in the village. It's not like I have a ton of grass because it's all turned into either dog runs or flower beds.
The only thing I can say, like, I have somebody mow the lawn and they just leave it on the lawn and it just is not enough. But if you're getting it from, you have to know where your source is, because if anyone's using a weed killer, an herbicide, and it's in those grass clippings, and you put it on your vegetables will get damaged from the weed killer. So you really need to know your source. Like, it's fine if no one's putting weed killer. Like if you're not using, and I don't use weed killer, I just I don't even fertilize anymore. I just don't do anything. But if anyone's using any kind of weed killer, you can't use their clippings. Not even you can't
This
use it.
last year I just got such a measly amount of leaves, so I prefer mulching with leaves, but I'm out of them at this
Yeah.
point, just because. And so I'm mowing my own lawn, and sort of I use the grass catcher some of the times.
And you can
This-
also tie up the bacteria that break down the grass clippings need a lot of nitrogen, and if you can get a nitrogen deficiency in your soil because they tie up the nitrogen, they can steal it from the plants. So the solution is just sprinkle some blood meal on there because the blood meal will provide the nitrogen. So you just got to watch out for that. You don't want to tie up the nutrients.
I try not to put green ones directly on the on the ground. I sort of
Yeah.
let them. I'll like set them out on.
Oh,
screens
okay,
up there,
yeah.
Let them dry out a little bit.
Yep, gotcha. That's perfect. That doesn't, yeah, then you
Okay.
don't have to worry about it. Yeah.
Okay, very good. Let's see. We have another question here. I'm going to share a screen again in a second. Somebody got bonus points for sending in a picture with a question.
That must be me.
Someone got bonus points.
Okay, so here's my deal. I had two beautiful cherry plants. They're super sweet 100 hybrid cherry tomatoes. They were
I
from
love
Bonnie, and they were yeah, Bonnie. So their stuff is organic. Anyway, somewhere as they were just getting really big and they had a zillion little cherry tomatoes on them, they started to curl up on the ends like that. And some of the leaves, they have stopped taking water now, because I have them in planters with a reservoir, so I can see. And normally these two huge plants were emptying the 3-gallon reservoir every day. And all of a sudden I haven't had to put water in it in like 4 or 5 days. So I looked it up, and I think it's Fusarium wilt. Has anybody heard of that?
Yeah. It could
And
be.
I mean, they're
Is there a
so far
solution for
gone at
that?
this, they're so far gone, I can't imagine there's any way to revive them, and I couldn't find anything about that online. My question is the soil that they're in something that's going to be damaged?
You mean it's yeah,
Because
so
it's
the
a
soil,
fungus, I believe.
Did
yeah,
you
the
grow
soil
did you
has
grow
the fungus.
tomatoes in that soil before?
I did, but what I did was I mixed in some fresh compost, not fresh, yeah, compost, and a little bit of a bag of soil, like potting soil, potting
So
mix.
maybe what you can do next year is are they big planters? Are they huge
No,
planters?
it's not that bad. They're big, but not that big.
So maybe you could use that soil for some other plant, like maybe plant it with your like a perennial that doesn't get affected by the fusarium, and then
Right,
replace the soil that you took out with fresh soil. I mean,
right.
that way it doesn't, won't affect the tomatoes or something. Maybe put it next to your irises or
Right,
whatever you
right.
grow. And
I was
then,
thinking more for right now, though. I'd like to be able to take them out and plant something that's a cool weather crop, but is that going to be a problem?
no, fusariums, as far as I can double check, but fusarium is a lot of these fungus diseases are specific to the plants. So
Right,
like a fusarium wilt on a tomato, it might affect plants that are in the same family. Like it might affect a potato or a pepper or
or
an eggplant.
eggplant or something, yeah.
It's not going to affect like a cabbage or a pea or something like that.
Okay, okay.
That's usually how they work. They use a lot of diseases work with families, and same with insects damage. Like a hornworm, tomato hornworm will eat tomatoes, potatoes. Colorado potato beetles will eat potatoes, tomatoes, eggplants, peppers, but they won't touch your peas or your string beans.
Okay,
So
okay.
so I think you're okay. I can double check, but I don't think you have to worry about it if you're planting something else.
Because I had read that even from one variety of tomato to the next, it will or won't affect it.
Yeah, they have a lot of these hybrids now. A lot of them have they have VF, and there's another one VF. V is verticillium, F is
Yeah,
fusarium resistance. So if you see like Roma VF, it means Roma tomato with verticillium and fusarium
gotcha.
resistance.
I always
But
wondered what that meant.
resistance doesn't mean it doesn't affect it. It just affects it less. So
Okay.
you could still get a plant that, you know, is affected, and if it overpowers it, but it's not as susceptible. It's like roses. You ever grow roses with black spot? You know, some roses, especially the yellow types, are like really affected by black spot, and then you put one next to it, and like looks like it doesn't touch it. So it has resistance to the disease, the black spot. Same with the fusarium.
So if a plant, now there's a lot of green tomatoes on there, and I think even though it's not taking water, maybe they won't. But I mean, I've had plenty of times green tomatoes turn red, especially cherry tomatoes. So
yeah, but
is the disease into the fruit?
It's not going to affect you, even if it is, and it shouldn't affect. What it does is it clogs the
In the
pipe.
stem, yeah.
The flow goes up the stem, so it clogs it up, so it can't function properly.
And that's exactly what it is. It's displaying exactly that, you know, by not drinking and becoming wilted.
Yeah,
There's tons of water right there.
It shouldn't affect I mean, it'll affect the fruit because the plant is sick. But as far as eating it, I don't think it's
okay.
It's not going to affect you. It's
Yeah.
not like
all
that.
Right. Well, that's good to know.
Or anything like that. Yeah.
All right. Thanks.
But yeah, good luck. I hope they come back. Maybe with the dry weather.
I don't think they will. If they haven't taken water for
Yeah.
now 4 or 5 days, I don't see how they can. They're just like completely hanging over now. So I think I have to just pull them.
One last question: is the soil still very moist or almost wet? Because
It's always sort of like a damp sponge, because of the way the system is set up. For the last 5 years, I've gotten so many tomatoes off of 2 plants, we couldn't eat them all and give them away. It's just incredible. But this year, something wasn't right. I'm assuming it was the plants, but I don't know.
I think the weather too. But I was going to say, because if the soil's super moist or wet or like a sponge, and it's not transporting up to the leaves, and it can't get rid of that water in the soil, eventually your roots are going to rot. Because they can't get the oxygen they need to respire, so they'll eventually rot as well. So you'll have an issue with that too.
Maybe all that rain, even though I don't know. Well, anyway, thank you.
Christy,
Yeah.
I see what look like healthy leaves behind the wilted leaf.
Yes.
So
don't give up.
Yeah,
Yes.
but what I read about this is that half of the plant will be wilted and the other half fine, but it all eventually dies.
Well, before I give it up, I would cut off the wilted ones.
Okay.
And bag them up, don't compost them.
All
and
right.
then the thing with the rain, I don't know about you, but we've had some torrential downpours. I put a few things in some containers that I didn't realize didn't have drainage holes. And it hasn't mattered because we didn't have a lot of rain. And then I noticed a thyme plant that I keep in a container wasn't looking good. So I pulled it up and it was soaking wet in the bottom. So I pulled it up and it's drying out in the yard. So also with these downpours, because if you got 2 inches of rain at one time, it might just need to dry out. So
yeah,
and even you can also those tomatoes should ripen, without all the leaves.
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna just leave it then, I think.
But trim the bad stuff off, cut it off, get rid of it.
All right, I will.
It'll grow more.
It's worth a try,
Yeah. Good luck.
All right, thank you.
Folks, we're pushing 9 o'clock, so I'm going to push on to the next slide. So one of the questions was, what's Turkish rocket? And here is Chad's answer.
That's how it looks, right? You could eat the leaves, and then they do flower, which the flowers are also edible. And but I did cut.
Pretty.
I cut them, and they lasted a very long time. My wife, my wife put them in a vase, and they're quite pretty. And but you can eat the flowers as well. And
you start this from seed? Did you direct seed, or did you start it inside first?
No, I got it as a little baby from Midsummer Farm, and it grew very well.
How long did it take to get to this size?
It grew quickly, but I would say I put it in last year. Then this year,
okay,
the flowers came up pretty early.
Quickly. Yeah, that's pretty quick.
So it's a perennial.
Yes, it's perennial. Yes. Yeah, I'm trying to do more and more perennials.
I just have this weather thing to share. This was in late June. This was AccuWeather.com's their prediction for August. Hardly anything above the. It's hard to see what this is the highest. This is the daily average of the dark line, and it turns out we've had a few days above, and it looks like they're predicting like a couple of really hot days for later this week. But then
Yes.
I'm not showing it, but like in August, like the first week of August, everything's supposed to be like this, like, well below the average daily highs.
It's
I'm ready for
very
below.
unusual. Very, very wild summer.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, right. My daughter, my daughter's works at the beach here. Like, it was like the first regular Saturday that she's had. That sunny day. Let's go to the beach and Sunday. So it's
Yeah,
very
no.
unusual.
One of
These
the
days,
things,
I've changed my clothes like 3 times. Like walk out work for maybe 45 minutes and then come in and like put on a new shirt.
one of the things to think about with global warming and climate change, you look at the high temperatures of the day and see, well, we maybe didn't, for the month, we maybe were average, but look at the lows. The higher lows is also part of the average global temperatures rising. And it makes a big effect, how much stuff is able to cool off at night. It really changes. It's a change to the environment.
Yeah.
That's a concern.
Right.
Well, folks,
Sandra and David, any last second questions or anything going on? Sorry, cutting you off, Mike.
no, it's a very good point.
No, we're fine. Thank you.
Okay, we're always welcome. If you want to send pictures, ask any questions, we're always here.
Yeah, next time we will.
Okay,
You notice how Christy got bonus points that time.
exactly.
You can
Yeah,
gonna
they're
look
worth
for
a
those.
lot.
send a picture or two with questions attached, and plenty of bonus points for that.
Okay.
Everyone, thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you
Bye-bye.
again on August
Okay.
14th.
Okay.
Have a
sounds
great
good.
night.
Everybody.
You
Good night,
guys too. Have a
everybody.
great night. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Good night.